G'day tubers, how are we people? Hope you are all well and free from the China virus. Thank you to my subscribers and my viewers and anyone else who contributes anything at all to these videos. We're back from up north. Guys, this is just an engine I picked up from the farmers, or his son actually, from Richard. We're going to do it up, make it nice. It's a little Villiers Mark 12 Australian build. I haven't had it running. It's got spark. Had the wrong spark plug in it, but we're going to clean it up and do what we can and make it nice. So let's go, guys. Well, tubers, here's our next project. This is a Villiers Mark 12, I think they're known as. Looking at the serial numbers and that there, yeah, Mark 12. Made in Australia, in Ballarat. Of course, those operations closed down some time ago, but there's still plenty of these around. As I say, it's probably just a copy of the English one with some local content. It should be a goer. I haven't had it going, but it's got good compression. Someone's put a long reach spark plug in it, and it should have a short reach one, so when I rotated it, you probably can't make that out. It just touched the inlet valve. So, we didn't force the issue with that, so we don't need that one. It's got the original air cleaner, which I was just mucking around with a bit of polish. That should clean up nicely. She's all complete. As I say, it's got compression. Someone screwed around with these brackets. As you can see, this is wrong. And you can see the old marks, and if you look, they've got a bracket down here, which should actually be there. So we'll reposition all of that. Tank's pretty good inside. No real dents. That's a little bit bent. We'll straighten that out. It's got the red dust, obviously, from Hermidale all over it. That's where I got it. It was one of the shepherd's son, Richard. I bought it off him. So we'll clean it up. We'll make it nice and... don't know what colour yet. It's a Villiers. As I say, I've done the JAP's orange and the BAC's red. It's even got spark, believe it or not. We'll hook in and see how it goes, see what happens with it. Well, I've got the cowling off the side tubers and come off all right. The nuts and bolts are a bit rusty. I found that inside. One of the screws was threaded into it, and nothing was in the other end, as you can see. Well, it has nothing been in for it for a long time, but I'm not quite sure where it goes. It was just, she was laying in the bottom like that, so, yeah, well, we'll figure it out as we go, I suppose, anyway. Plenty of dust and dirt in this one. Well, that's the carburetor off tubers, manifold as well. Obviously someone's had a go at that in the past. You can see the difference in the bolts. Appears to be serviceable. The gasket on the float bowl is damaged or broken. We'll have to get a new one of them. Looks a bit dark inside. She's obviously going to need a good cleaner. But, we'll make it nice. No real surprises there. That's the exhaust gasket. Obviously we'll be making a new one of them, and that's the intake manifold gasket. We'll make that new. Behind there, that appears to be the valve cover. Governor linkage is free enough. As I say, it rotates. It looks like it'd probably go. We'll keep going. Because this is a Villiers tubers, I think you'll find this flywheel isn't keyed on. It's purely held on by the retaining nut. We're about to undo this, but you'll notice, if I can get the light just right for you, you'll see there's a mark on the flywheel and a mark on the breaker plate. Now, when it goes back together, they would have to be in line. Obviously firing on number one, but we're going to remove the cylinder head before we move the flywheel, just to confirm the timing, because if we don't get it right, she'll never go. No real surprises under the cylinder head at this stage, people. Very clean piston. A little bit of slap in it. We'll just see how bad it is. We may, you can sort of see it there. We'll do a little bit of measuring if we can get some measurements. I'll see if I can get a set of standard rings. It appears all right. That'll clean up okay. Now we're just going to check out this timing and get all this right. Yeah, exactly as we suspected, tubers. As you can see, there's the 2 marks there. That's at top dead centre firing number 1. Oh, number 1, it's only 1 cylinder, sorry. If we go around 360 degrees, you'll see the exhaust is just starting to open. As the piston's coming up to clear the exhaust, the intake will start to open. And lined up there once again. So yeah, we just got to make sure we time it right. Just took the outer pull start pulley off, guys. Just a rattle gun for that, nice and easy. Normal left hand thread, not a right hand thread. Behind here is a little plate which probably might come off without undoing that nut. I think you're behind that, you can see the points, but it doesn't appear to want to come off unless you take the nut off, or maybe push this thing off. Anyway, we'll persist with this for a minute and see what we can find out. Yeah, that just sort of pushed off, guys. Now we should be able to get a clearer view of the breaker points, which will be behind that little screen there. So this is the same as that other Villiers, the little yellow one that we did. So very similar setup. So there shouldn't be any huge dramas with this. Well, that's the flywheel off, guys. Good thing with these ones is that nut is held captive, and as you undo it, it actually pops the flywheel off. So that's a bit of a bonus there, nice and easy. On that will be the cam for the points, and behind this plastic thing should be the ignition points. Looks like a very similar setup to the little yellow one, guys. That's the breaker plate off, tubers. Looks to be in very good condition. As I say, it has got a spark. Well, you get a jolt off it anyway. Yeah, almost identical to that little yellow Villiers that we did a little while back. Yeah, obviously the rest of that side comes off when you undo those nuts. Some nuts there which look like they'll hold on the sump. Yeah, we're getting into it now. Not much more left. That's that side cover off, tubers. Bearing field's all right. Behind that is a little seal, which will need replacing. Yeah, we're starting to get into the guts of it now, and yeah, no real big surprises so far. Well, that's the sump off, tubers. No real surprises. Very old oil, very dirty oil. Nothing overly surprising in here. That's the governor. Yeah, all sort of looks all right. Bit of movement there, but don't know about up and down. We'll check all that when we get it apart, of course. Yeah, we'll keep going. There's some witness marks on the conrod cap, guys, just so it goes back together the same way. Always important to put everything back in the same hole, in the same way it came out of. Point of reference for the piston, that little dot that I just put in goes towards the valves. Point of reference, a little circlip there behind the governor rod. That's the piston out, tubers. A little bit worn. I mean, I don't know how old this motor is. We'll see if we can get some new rings for it. The bearings don't look too bad on the for the conrod end, big end. But once again, as usual, I'll check all this and then order me parts. Point of reference, that circlip or spring clip on the camshaft rod or shaft, bearing, whatever you want to call it, goes towards the ignition side of the engine. Well, tubers, there we have it. The Mark 12 is completely torn down to basically every bit she'll go. Preliminary inspection, the valve seats look pretty good. Cam looks good, piston looks okay. The rings, as we saw, there's a little bit of slap in the piston, they're a bit worn. I might be able to get a set, I don't know. We'll see with this. Crankshaft appears to be fine on initial inspection. So on and so on. The rest will all clean up as we know. Cylinder head, sump. The ball looks all right. Valves want a bit of cleaning up. The ports will need a bit of a tidy up and that sort of thing. But the block and all that appears to be okay. Bloody filthy, of course. It needs a damn good clean up. But we shall do that in the coming days. And yeah, we'll see if we can get a gasket set for it and that sort of thing, and a carby kit. Don't know about that. It's a bit... we'll see. The light's lousy in here, people. Sorry. Yeah, we'll clean all that up and see what we can do. I've got to check the points, and as I say, I'm not ordering anything until I've had a bit of a proper look at everything, but yeah, that's the initial teardown. So with a bit of luck, she'll clean up like some of the other ones. That's what we're aiming for, is something like that. We'll probably paint it blue. That's that other Villiers. She's a little bit sad, that one. Very down on compression, but yeah, I mean, it's still, you know, sort of something to talk about, I suppose. But yeah, we got all the usual job of clean up all the parts. Just starting to clean up the cylinder for the little Villiers Mark 12 guys. It's not a port and polish, it's just a relieve. It's just getting rid of some of the rough castings and that. I don't know how well you can see that. Just getting rid of some of the rough castings and that. Just maybe help the flow a little bit. It probably won't lift it one skerrick, but you know, it sort of might help it a little bit. You've got to try and, you know, do everything you can to help these poor old bloody side valve motors. But yeah, just as I say, cleaning up. I've seen a lot of guys, they'll go to great trouble to paint and clean and tidy everything, and then they'll start doing their bloody machine work. Well, to me, that's just admitting dirt and all that to the job. Do all your machine work, all of that, I reckon, and then do your final clean-up. But that's just me. Just starting to do the valves, guys. That's the exhaust valve. Is that in focus? Yeah, I think so. The seat's, the face of the valve is really good, surprisingly. So we'll clean him up. The seat is, you know, as I say, we're going to lap it in. The seat's not too bad either, so it's one of the better ones I've had. Most of them are rusted out and pitted out, so this should be all right. Well, that's the exhaust valve lapped in, guys. Come up pretty good. It's the one on the left. Yeah, come up pretty good. The valve similarly looks good. The seat's a little bit, I suppose, low on the face of it. It should be more in the middle, but I don't have the proper cutters and that to get it in the guts of it. So that'll be just fine, and as long as it seals, we'll be okay. Similar operation on the intake valve tubers. Yeah, the seats come up beautifully, as has the valve. Once again, the seat, or the face, is a little low, but it's a bit better than the exhaust. But that'll be all right, that'll be fine. So that's basically the valves done. Yeah, there's only a tiny little bit of slop in them. Obviously there has to be a clearance for oil, but you don't want that excessive. But I'm not going to do anything about it. As I say, these are just clean-ups. They're not full restorations, but yeah, that'll be fine. Very light hone on the cylinder tubers. As I say, I don't know if I can get rings. so I don't want to take out too bloody much because they're a little worn as it is. Yeah, there's no lip or anything, so the bore's pretty good. As I say, it'll be all right for this thing. Well, that's the breaker plate cleaned up, tubers. Wasn't any big deal. The points are pretty good, just a light clean up. You can't set anything yet, obviously, because there's no cam to work the points off. Cleaned up that little rubber seal and put a new spark plug end on it. The old one was probably all right, but just to neaten it up and just so we know 100% it's okay now. Just cleaning up the crankshaft tubers. And I mean, it all looks all right, but there's a little bit of wear on the conrod, the big end, and a little bit of sideways movement that way in the conrod. You can see it's slightly, don't know if you can make that out, slightly burred over there. So I reassembled the conrod on it, and there's a little bit of slack in that. So it would probably need bearing replacement, possible machining. Also, having a look at the end of the flywheel, I've just cleaned it up and you can see that there's some marks in it, that someone has been butchering this poor old engine, even to the point there's no centre hole drilled in this end of the crankshaft as there is in that. So they would have had a centre hole drilled in that. When I inspected it closely, you could see it's almost like someone had cut it off with a oxyacetylene or an angle grinder. So someone's been pretty heavy-handed with the poor old soul. It'll run. It may have a bit of conrod knock in it. Once again, it's probably not worth big efforts. I'm not going to be running a pulley. You can still run a pulley on it because I haven't changed the size or anything. But yeah, it'll run, but it's a little bit worn in that area, so the crank would want a little bit of work, as would the piston rings, I'd suggest. But I'm not spending, for the money I paid for it, it's just not worth it, because even cleaned right up, they're not worth anything. So it's more just for the fun of it. Well, tubers, that's the cylinder all cleaned up. You can see the original red. Yeah, it's all been, you know, I've ran all the threads, honed it, done the valve seats, so on and so on and so on. We're going to put this in the oven now and let it heat for about an hour, just to sweat any oils and that out of it, and then we're going to give it a black powder coat and she's done. This is the sump off the Villiers tubers, and she's been soaking in that bloody parts cleaner for 2 days. Give it a pressure clean, got a lot of stuff off, but it's really gunked in the corners and that, and there's some stuff in the bottom. I don't know what the hell, it's an oil residue. Tried everything. But yeah, we're going to give it a sandblast, see if that'll clean it up. We'll give the outside a bit of a sandblast and a good detail and tidy up. It's aluminium or a magnesium alloy or something, so we'll give it a good clean up and she should come up all right. Well, that's the sump all cleaned up, tubers. Sandblasted in there, got a lot of it out, or changed the colour of it, one or the other. Just remember to wash it all out properly, because it is your engine's oil supply in there. Plastic sump plugs, cleaned them up as best I could. It's not bad, it'll be all right. It'll come up okay, you'll hardly notice it. Well, tubers, that's the block. She's been baked for an hour, you can just touch it, so all the oils and all that are sweated out of it. That'll get a nice powder coat of gloss black. I've got to mask off the machine surfaces, but yeah, it should come up all right. A few more bits cleaned up, tubers, getting there slowly. Crank's done, little rocker cover, just give it a quick powder coat. Looks all right. That's all clean. Most of the nuts and bolts have been done. You know, run the threads, clean them up, black them a bit. The pull start things, whatnot, so on and so on. That's a little bit cruddy there. She'll be right, you won't see it. Goes behind that pulley. That's all done. There, the shims behind the bearing for the crank end float. And of course the crankcase is done. That come up pretty nice. It's powder coat. And yeah, it didn't come up too bad. Take that little plug out, just so the threads don't get powder coat on them. They're just a little silicone plug designed for powder coating for the oven. And yeah, small brackets, the petrol tank brackets cleaned up. They're just got to be powder coated. And yeah, it's really just the cowling in the tank now, and clean them up, paint them. We're just about ready to start reassemble. Well guys, we got our carby kit from Vintage Air Cooled Engine Spares. Once again, he's pretty good up there. Steve up there, he's good. So if you want bits for BSA, JAP or Villiers, yeah, get onto him, he's really good. So there's a gasket kit for the carby. There's a new cork for the petrol tap, which I'm sure it'll need one. I haven't had it apart, but I know it'll need one. And we'll do the carby today. We'll fix up that bolt that's obviously not correct. Bit hard to see in there, but it's pretty cruddy. Don't know what'll happen when we take the float bowl off, and linkages are pretty rusty and all of that. So we're going to pull this all to bits, clean it right up, and hopefully make it look like a nice one, and hopefully it'll bloody work like a new one with a bit of luck. We'll see what happens. Well, that's the float bowl off, guys. No real surprises. A little bit of junk in it, but nothing like really offensive. A few other bits. The float can't hear anything, so that's a good sign. I'll put it in some water and see if it actually does float, hence its name, float. And that should be alright. Obviously that side goes, oh no, what's Villiers? I thought that set up, it's something. Anyway, we'll figure that out. That's good. Looks like that main tube undoes. We'll undo that. We'll also take that needle and seat out, and whatever other bits and pieces we can get off, and clean him out. Well, there we have it, guys. One Villiers carby, cleaned up. Bit hard to see in there, isn't it? Tidied up, new gaskets and all that, new O-rings, all that sort of thing. Got some of the rust off it, and checked him out. Still have to adjust that little needle. Standard sort of procedure. Turn it until it stops, just lightly, don't force them. Turn them back about a turn and a half, and that should get you going. And then you go from there, you warm it up and adjust it all from there. So yeah, carby looks like she's pretty well done. Well, that's the manifold back on too, guys. Just a quick sandblast and that. Put 2 new bolts in it. I know they didn't have Allen keys originally. It doesn't matter, she'd be right. Doesn't have to be exactly original, it's just a little neat touch. So yeah, that's basically the carby, and that finished. Guys, this is the cowling off the Villiers. Just got to do a little bit of work on it. These 2 bolts is actually where you know, it mounts the cowling, and it had rivet nuts behind it, and I had to cut them out. They were spinning, they were rusted out, and they just weren't working. So what I'll do is I'll just tack in 2, I don't know if you can see that, 2 captive nuts, and you can just make it out there. It's a little bit dark, and that'll hold it all in line. And yeah, then we can sandblast it, and then we can paint it. There's no dents in it or anything. It's pretty straight. Took the ID, you know, the plate off the side of it. Don't know what I'll do with that, how to clean that up, I don't know, but yeah, it'll clean up all right. So we'll tack that in and then give it a sandblast. Bit more powder coating, guys. Yeah, it didn't come up too bad. Slowly getting the hang of this powder coating. It's yeah, it's, as I've said before, it's all preparation. The tank brackets look all right. They come up pretty well. Yeah, should be all right. Don't know what I'm going to do with this ID plate, or whatever you want to call it. It looks terrible, and I don't know how to fix it, and I'm not going to put it on that. I might see if I can get a sticker made up, and just hang on to that ID tag. Did the air cleaner, come up all right, just a rattle can black. I've got to polish that bloody brass a little bit more, but you've seen the carby. Just about ready to start reassembly. Just got to do the tank. Well, that's all the bits cleaned up, guys. Powder coating's done. Blocks done. I'll clean them as I put them in. I know they're okay. I've checked them. They just need cleaning, but I'll do that just prior to assembly so there's no dirt on them and that. Everything else is done. Yeah, time to start reassembly. Well, that's the valves in, guys. They went in nice and easy. Once again with the special tool. Well worth its money, that one. Yeah, don't know about the clearance yet. We haven't put the cam in and the lift as followers yet, but we'll see. Camshaft's in, guys. We can check our clearances now on the valves. Plenty of the assembly lube, you know the one. Plenty of that, doesn't matter how much you use, and well, not the whole tube obviously, but yeah, you don't want it running dry on its initial startup, so yeah, plenty of that. And yeah, she seems to be rotating nicely, so we'll check our clearances just for curiosity, see what we've got. Clearances, guys, I've got a tight 4 on the exhaust and a tight 4 on the intake. I don't know what they have to be. I'm going to go with that. That's the governor in, guys. No huge secret in that. It's got a locking device for the bolt that goes through it. I won't tighten that yet until I put that side cover on, because I think that'll butt up against it and help keep it tight. Don't forget to put in your activating rod that goes to the carby, and remember the little circlip goes on there too. That's, if you don't put that on, yeah, you might have issues. Crankshaft seals now, guys. He goes in first in there, then our end float shims, and then the bearing on the this is the part of the timing cover, or whatever you want to call it, side housing, whatever. Crankshaft in, guys. Pretty straightforward. Make sure that you time it correctly. See the 2 marks? That tooth fits in that one on the cam. So make sure you time it properly, or she will not go. Well, that's the side housing back on, guys. I didn't use any sealer. Normally I'd rub a little bit of Celastic or something, but I didn't put any sealer. There's not a huge amount of crankcase pressure, so we'll try it without it and see how we go. I'm not expecting any problems. New seals, obviously. Yeah, we'll keep going. Time to put the piston in. Well, that's a piston in, guys. As I say, there's a little bit of slack in that conrod bearing, and the rings are a little worn, but we should be all right. It shouldn't stop it from going. Just about to put the sump back on, guys, because we've closed up all the engine. Yeah, fit a new gasket. I'm not going to worry about any sealer once again. I'm going to try my luck without it. It's very easy to take the sump off if it does decide to leak, but I don't think it will. If the surfaces are clean, there should be no real issue. So let's see how we go. Well, that's the pan back on, guys, or the sump, whatever you want to call it. I put some new spring washers under the nuts. The old ones are a little bit sad, you know, it just doesn't hurt to change them. And yeah, she's starting to look like an engine slowly but surely. I think what's going to go on next is the ignition. So I want the head off for that so I can check where the valves are to get everything timed correctly. Well, flywheel's back on, guys. Top dead centre, both valves shut, and the little marks have lined up. Points are open, so that should be firing. Well, fit the new head gasket, guys. Make sure the surfaces are clean, and put the cylinder head on somehow. Being a bit stubborn. We'll fix it. Cylinder head's on, guys. I said it before and I'll say it again. Pull them down to tension nice and evenly. Carby's back on, guys. and the little governor linkage, just got to hook up the pin there, put a little clip in that, that'll be fine. Pulleys back on, we're still rotating. Yeah, hopefully we've got a spark. Carb and exhauster on, guys. Yeah, it's starting to look like an engine. Like I say, we're going to put the cowling on now, I suppose. Everything else is pretty much there, all external components now. Fiddling around with these tank brackets, tubers. Yeah, they'd sort of been a bit butchered before, not by the previous owner, but someone at some stage has mucked about with them, and they're a bit fiddly, and these little clips are being a pain. So I'm going to turn up some new nuts for it. So yeah, I don't think she'll be going today, probably tomorrow or the next day. Anyway, we're getting there, slowly but surely. Well, as I mentioned, tubers, these the original little clamps or speed nuts, whatever you want to call them, that are designed to fit in these clamps, they've had it. They just break, they're a bugger of a thing. So I've redesigned them. I've threaded 4 of these and put a hole through the other 4. So the theory is that that'll pull up in that, and then you thread a nut on from the other side, and hopefully that'll work. We'll soon find out. Well guys, that's the Villiers done, back together. Tank straps come up a treat. Those little clamps, well not the clamps, but the bolts came up all right. Air cleaner, so on and so on. I've got to get a slightly longer piece of fuel line and some clamps. That's the original one, but it's a bit short, so we'll fix that up. That's the dipstick, it's plastic. I didn't paint it. Yeah, just, you know, the paint come off as I was cleaning everything. Looks a bit, I might have to paint it black just to hide it, but that's what it is for the minute. Yeah, tank come up all right. Yeah, I'm not going to put that ID plate on because it just looks absolutely crap. So I'll have to come up with something. I wonder if I can get a sticker made. I'll look into that. Yeah, that's about it. So really now, all we've got to do is put some juice in it and see what happens. Well, tubers, it went first shot, but as I told you, the rings are pretty bad. It's smoking real bad. That's it, tubers, she's done. Pretty happy with the way it's running. It sounds strong considering it's pretty down on compression. She smokes a lot and pumps a bit of oil out. The governor needs a bit of work. For some reason it goes to flat out and stays there. I don't know what I've done there. Anyway, we'll stuff around with that. And the fuel tap, as you can see, it hasn't actually got a cork in it. It's got O-rings and they're leaking. So a couple of things, and I want to change that bit of hose. So we'll spend a little bit more time on this one. I think it's worth it because it come up all right, you know, she looks okay. Well, there's another one on the mighty shelf, guys. 2 Villiers, 2 BSAs and 2 JAPs. I wonder what's next.
So endeth the lesson, tubers. Yeah, thanks once again to my subscribers and my viewers and anyone else who contributes anything at all. Just remember with these things, it doesn't matter how good or how bad or how wrong or how right they are. The main thing is that you have fun doing it. You don't have to meet anyone's expectations but your own, and as long as you are happy with it, then that whole project, whatever that is a success. Take care, guys, and I'm going to talk to you soon.